All right, let's get into this. We're going to take a look at a song that, when you first hear it, seems pretty straightforward. But underneath the surface, there's this incredibly deep, kind of heartbreaking message about something else entirely. It's really a puzzle hidden inside one of Brazil's most iconic rock anthems.
Everything kicks off with this one line. Now, a literal translation is something like, "If only I could at least once." But that just doesn't capture it, you know? In Portuguese, this phrase is loaded with this deep, wistful longing for something you're pretty sure is never, ever gonna happen. It's the sound of quiet despair, and it really sets the stage for everything else.
And here it is. This is the central mystery we're going to unpack. The song's called Índios, which means indigenous people. So you think you know what it's about, right? But the lyrics, they're not a history lesson. They're a mirror pointed right back at us, at our own disappointments, our own guilt, and the crazy expectations we put on others to save us from ourselves.
Now, to really crack this code, we have to understand the guy who wrote these words and the world he was living in. Because this song didn't just come out of nowhere. It's a product of a very specific, very turbulent time and place.
So this is Renato Russo. He was the lead singer and the brilliant songwriter for the band Legião Urbana. But honestly, calling him a pop star just doesn't do him justice. This guy was a philosopher with a guitar, and he became the voice for a whole generation trying to find its way in the chaos of 1980s Brazil.
You see, his music was this incredible mix of deeply personal, almost confessional lyrics and really sharp social commentary. He wrote about the hypocrisy he saw everywhere, the restlessness of young people in a country just coming out of a military dictatorship, and all those messy, complicated emotions that make us human. He never, ever gave you an easy answer.
For those of you who might not know his work, here's a way to think about it. You know that feeling you get from Bob Dylan? That sense of moral questioning? Or that quiet, profound sadness in a Simon and Garfunkel song about how empty our society can feel? Well, Renato Russo lived and breathed in that same kind of emotional and philosophical space.
Okay, so now that we have that context, let's dive in. We're going to start peeling back the layers of the song's most powerful lines. And this is where the real meaning starts to come out.
I wish the simplest thing was seen as the most important. I mean, it sounds so, well, simple, but there is so much packed into that one sentence.
This isn't just some wishful thinking. It's a direct shot at a world that constantly tells us to chase complicated things. Power, status, money. And in that chase, we completely forget about the simple stuff that actually makes life worth living, like dignity, truth, and real human connection.
And then we get to this line, which might just be the most important metaphor in the entire song. They gave us mirrors, and we saw a sick world. Wow. So what does he mean by mirrors? Well, think of them as the supposed gift of modern, civilized culture. It's the promise of progress. But the twist is, when we actually look into that mirror, we don't see something better. We see a reflection of a world that's spiritually sick, a world built on violence, greed, and this deep, gnawing loneliness.
And the song just keeps building its case against this modern world. Next up is the line, "They taught us to be afraid of the world."
Just think about that for a second. Instead of raising us to be free and confident, the song says society actually teaches us to be afraid. Afraid of not fitting in, afraid of failing, afraid of just not being enough. We're basically educated into being insecure.
All right, so all of this brings us right back to the biggest question of all. If this song is really a critique of our society, why on earth is it called Índios? What's the connection?
And here's the key that unlocks the whole thing. In this song, Índios aren't a literal group of people. They're a symbol. They represent everything our modern world has lost, everything it's betrayed. A connection to nature, a sense of honesty, a moral clarity that we're all desperately searching for now.
It's such a bold, provocative move. When an audience in Brazil hears that title, they're expecting a protest song, right? Something about historical injustice. But instead, Russo pulls this incredible switch. He gives them a mirror. He's critiquing our own tendency to romanticize other people, to see them as perfectly pure, so we can put the burden of saving the world on them instead of looking at our own mess.
But just when we think this song is all about pointing fingers at the world, it takes this sharp, emotional turn inward. It becomes something much more personal, much more vulnerable.
And this is the song's emotional breaking point. The lyrics start to hint at this deep disillusionment. It's like, what if we spent our whole lives waiting for someone else, our parents, our leaders, maybe even those idealized Índios, to fix everything?
And what if we finally, painfully realize that nobody's coming? No one can save us but ourselves.
And that shift, right there, is what elevates this song to a masterpiece. It stops being a lecture about what's wrong with society and becomes this quiet, painful confession about our own failed hopes, our own fragility. It's an incredibly vulnerable moment.
So, when you put all these pieces together, what's the final picture? What do we see when we look into this musical mirror?
Ultimately, Indios is about us. It's a song about our very human habit of projecting all our hopes for a better world onto other people. And then it's about that painful, devastating discovery that real change, well, that has to start inside each of us.
And this is exactly why you can't just plug these lyrics into an online translator and get it. You'd completely miss the tone, that uniquely Brazilian feeling of melancholic longing. You'd miss all the cultural history packed into it. And most important of all, you'd miss the profound, heartbreaking meaning that's hiding between the lines.
So I'll leave you with this to chew on. Out of all these ideas we've talked about, the wish for simplicity, the metaphor of the sick world in the mirror, the fear we're all taught, which one of those hits you the hardest? And what do you think it reflects about the world we're living in right now?